And I believe we're live. Yes, indeed, we're live. Welcome to another Workflow Wednesday. This is Troy Pasola, and today I'm here with Dan Turchin, where we get to talk about and really revisit another Thirdera webinar. It's one of the things we aim to do when Thirdera puts out great content and webinars. If you haven't seen them yet, please check them out and sign them up. But we had one, and Dan, I'm so thankful you were able to join after that one. It was a panel discussion around artificial intelligence and employee experience. Hi, Dan.
Troy, good to be back. I cannot imagine a better way to start my day than with a little Troy energy. Love being on your Wednesday. Show. There should be a workflow Monday and a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Friday as well. We all be better off.
We'd all be better off. Well, the reality is that's where so many of us fit, is there is workflow that needs to happen every day of the week. And that's, to me, that's why I enjoy being part of Thirdera. And why I started now with Troy is because there is so much where we agonize on, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so, for this session, I know we're tight on time. I really want to jump into it quick, Dan. We had a panel of 5 speakers, including yourself, brilliant minds from industry who have wrestled with, in this COVID, great resignation, just an angst of, I can't really meet my people in so many ways that I used to. How do you build that culture? Technology has changed so rapidly, and artificial intelligence and other things. What was your one aha moment that really sticks out to you from that webinar that you had last week?
It was a great session, and we had everyone from the great Jason Woyan, the CEO of Thirdera, to Wendy Pfeiffer, who's the CIO of Nutanix. We had Joel Eagle, who's the head of IT infrastructure for McDonald's. We had Dr. Mamoon Samaha, who's the CTO at the International Technological University, and just a great wide-ranging discussion. And the number one thing that stands out to me across the 45 minutes or so of an interesting conversation is how tightly coupled the employee experience is with the customer experience. So the panelists just shared colorful examples about how much employees who feel valued and trusted and respected bring their best selves to work. And when employees bring their best selves to work, they produce the best work product, and they love what they do. And they spend less time doing the stuff they hate doing and more time doing the stuff they're actually paid to do that made them take the job. And it should be no secret that it's the companies that invest in better employee experiences that are the ones that outperform their peers. And just to hear it from the panelists, across a range of backgrounds and industries, I thought was just really an inspiration to hear it from the trenches.
Right. I agree. And it was interesting. It also stuck out to me. I kept hearing the word happiness. And, it goes way back, the strengths movement. If you dig into Strengths Finder and looking at how do you invest in the things you're really strong at from a personality standpoint. And instead of saying, well, here's your weakness, let's shore those up. A lot of the conversation was, just like you said, pointed back to how do we help build a culture that people can come to work excited to work. Yeah, it's still work, but excited to work. And like you said, I like how you put it, be your best self as you're there. How did you see technology really play into that? As you talk about that engagement and creating that culture.
Wendy from Nutanix told this story that really resonated with me. So they had to transfer 10,000 employees from office work to remote work over a weekend. and as a CIO,
we just stop and pause on that a little bit, right? We think of digital transformation and migrations as all right, 10,000 people over the weekend to a completely different model of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, just resonate. I just wanted to pause and interrupt and resonate on that a little bit. Now, continue the story, because I think it's important to really get that in context.
So Nutanix is a technology company didn't have any buffer from their end customers. The customers didn't say, oh, you know what? We understand that a bunch of employees, they're not going to be available. They're going to be offline for a week. And so
Right.
it's okay if, you're not available to support our products, or, it's okay. You can
Yeah.
stop, innovating, or it's okay. We'll go to your competitor because, they're going to be ready for us. Right. Unfortunately, businesses don't have the luxury of being able to behave that way. So Wendy was tasked by her leadership team to do it over a weekend. And that created a few different challenges, one of which was just the sheer pressure of being on that clock. But the second
Right.
was the CISO wanted to have a hand in this as well, because they basically just stood up 10,000 new remote offices. And
Right.
that CISO went from having to manage, let's say, a dozen networks, a dozen offices around the world, to 10,000. And so in terms of, everything from endpoint security to VPNs and configurations and credentials and managing, phishing attacks and everything that comes with having all of these new IP addresses on the network. So it was a tight collaboration between IT managing the deployment of these remote offices, but in collaboration with a lot of other stakeholders. And what Wendy says is it was their ability to deliver a lot of these routine requests or routine services in an automated fashion, using a system of intelligence, using a system of record.
Right.
They were so far ahead of where any competitor was because they had already invested in digital transformation, and they had already thought through what it means to provide white glove service to 10,000 employees even before something unexpected like this happened. And those are the organizations that have the foresight to think about what it means to deliver the best employee experience, that are best equipped to accommodate when things change on a moment's notice.
Right. I like how you put that, having that foresight to build that in helps you be prepared for the unknown. It's like the saying that we often hear is change is constant, just deal with it. And I always push back on that and say, no, not in my experience. Change is not constant. It's accelerating. And things like the pandemic do happen where it transforms and shakes out entire industries. And so it's cool to hear that story from Wendy and see how they, had the prep work to have systems in place to see the value of automation in that prepped them for this change.
Yeah, another great example was from Dr. Samaha, he's both a professor at the university as well as its CTO. And he was talking about the experience of being a student in a fully online university and the dependency that you have on technology. Right. So you're getting your degree. It's primarily it's an online only university, primarily offering students that have full-time jobs the ability to earn a master's, or I believe they offer MBAs, masters, possibly undergrad degrees. But if the systems aren't online, whether it's systems that professors are using to lecture, or systems to get your course syllabus or submit your exams, things like that, well, the whole university shuts down. So there's a pretty high dependence on systems being available, and his need to provide exceptionally good experiences for the learners and for the professors makes the difference between ITU being successful. They thrive through the pandemic. They continue to thrive because of their readiness with systems that are technology first, but all in support of helping learners and professors engage better, interact better online. That's not inherently a technology problem, but technology is an absolutely essential component of making sure that university functions. So completely different from what Wendy went through, but a similar example of where a better experience for the end user, in this case, a professor or a learner, is the difference between engagement. It's the difference between the business succeeding and the business failing.
Right, right. I can see that. And, you know, I think a lot of things that we've seen, even doing things like this, you know, the whole use of video has really scaled and grown. And really the acceptance to do it. You know, there was online schooling, online universities prior, but I think it's those like you were talking about that had the systems in place that were able to really scale. So as people were looking at how do you retool, how do you learn something else? How do I get a degree so I know what's next? To have those platforms there with the resilience to really provide the service, you know, that's key.
Yeah.
How else from either kind of a field service standpoint, how did some of that come up? I know that was part of the conversation.
Yeah.
What stuck out to your mind, you know, to you there?
Joel from McDonald's spoke very eloquently about the opportunities that AI first technology has provided to support the McDonald's business, independent of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's operates 40,000 restaurants in 200 markets. And every day, every hour, every minute, every second, even, there are changes to menus. And they have gone to fully app-based ordering, curbside pickup, kiosk-based ordering, personalization of menu items, personalization of services, and that whole digital backend, the whole ability to predict what a customer might want, what time to make sure the Happy Meals are made in advance, how to make sure the shake machine is always available. Their ability to predict the kind of services or the demand for their services is based on AI first platforms ingesting data and providing not just great experiences for the crew members, the employees in the restaurants or the corporate teams, but also making sure that that experience that the crew members have is what's going to deliver the best possible experience for that hungry mom and her 3 kids at the end of a long day, just wanting a hot meal and, you know, wanting to make sure the right toys and the right Happy Meal. It turns out all of that's a data problem.
Right.
And the way that they can deliver a vastly superior experience at scale is by making sure they have things like a virtual agent that speaks 27 languages and a set of domain ontologies that understands 5 million different concepts related to work, IT, HR, how restaurants operate. So this intelligent experience that their employees have is really what goes into delivering a better experience to the hungry mom and her 3 kids. And that's, you know, that's work that Joel and his team can really take pride in, is feeling like, you know, they're making a difference for billions of people who, you know, whose primary source of nutrition, believe it or not, you know, get me on a soapbox about the scale that McDonald's operates on, but for a lot of the world, their lowest cost, highest source of nutrition, protein specifically, comes from that treat that they get, that maybe 1 McDonald's meal a week that they can afford. And so it's very important for McDonald's leadership and everyone in a restaurant to be able to deliver that experience that these customers are expecting.
Yeah, with the consistency across that scale, right?
Yeah.
That to me, that's the amazing part is where you see that scale, where you can really drive that consistency. You know, in the minutes that we have left, Dan, you know, I think there might be a lot of people, a lot of leaders that watch that panel and they can see perhaps some of the same problems. They can, you know, empathize with some of the agony of the transformation that occurred. But they may be looking for, you know, ways to really prep for the next change because it's coming, or ways to really shore up their systems to be able to add that layer of intelligence or increase the layer of workflow. What would be your recommendations be for someone to really lean into that? Say, where would you start?
I'd encourage everyone watching the live stream to go and have a look at that recording of the exec roundtable from, it was last Thursday. We're recording this on March 30th. And what they'll hear is 3 actionable recommendations. And I'll go ahead and repeat them here, but again, I go into a little bit more detail. One is be prepared to ask your employees questions. So while a lot of the session was about the benefits of technology and the benefits of automation, there's no substitute for demonstrating that you care about your employees by asking them what matters to you. And what you'll find, we surveyed 250 organizations, 250 CIOs, and we summarized some of the results in the exec roundtable. But it turns out of the top 7 things that employees say matters most to them when you ask them what matters to you, 0 of the top 7 relate to compensation. 7 of the top 7 relate to the experience that they have when they enter the workplace. Okay, so ask them questions. The second, this may seem obvious, but as we interviewed 250 CIOs, we found that there was a little bit of a gap here, a little bit of an opportunity for them to improve how they communicate with employees, and that's listen to your employees. So proactively solicit feedback in subtle ways. So provide community forums, provide through things like a virtual agent, proactively ask them for feedback and be willing to take all that data and engage them in a dialogue. So for example, oftentimes employers will assume that the way to improve morale is by paying a bonus or by providing more PTO. And it turns out, providing a virtual agent that speaks their language makes the people in other time zones that may have previously felt like they were second or third class citizens feel like they're parts of the organizational culture. So listen to what they actually care about and be willing to change. And then the third key item that we cover in a little bit more detail is reward success. So one of the best ways, again, this comes out clearly in the data, is employees feel motivated to do their best work when they feel like they're being acknowledged, celebrated, their whole self they bring to work, when they feel like the little wins get celebrated. So whether that's even something that might seem not worthy of note, a new customer goes live for a customer success team, a new branding slogan goes out, a new item gets pushed to a menu. We deliver a new release of a buggy code. We fix a bug in real time faster than we thought. Take the opportunity to celebrate these little victories that to a team looking to do their best work is the validation that they need to feel really engaged and really motivated. So it's a combination of not just systems or technology, but providing the right kind of environment that makes everyone feel like they can bring their best self to work. Those are the 3 tips that came out from our survey that we felt like were actionable, that we elaborated on in the panel. Yeah,
I like that. One of the things that came to mind as you're talking through that is I saw a video recently from Simon Sinek where he was talking about leadership and talking about an example from the military where there's one person really struggling to get through this test. A new leader stepped in and didn't reprimand for some of the failures, but instead found those early little successes and highlighted, put the spotlight on those little successes. And the result was that the person, excelled and did it. And I think in another way, we're seeing that from your research, we're seeing that from the panel, that finding those successes and celebrating them with our teams matter. So that's great. I know you've mentioned the survey that you have and kind of the white paper, the analysis that you've created. For anyone watching, Dan and I are easy to find on LinkedIn. And if that's something of interest, by all means, reach out to either one of us. Glad to get you a copy of that, and also look forward to an opportunity to chat with you directly if you've got interest in that. The other thing I'll add is I get the pleasure of speaking with Dan again next week on Workflow Wednesday as we talk about experience in getting information back. At Thirdera, we work with a number of strategic partners. People Rain is one, and you'll see me talk with several. You might think that Thirdera is dependent on our partners. We are in some ways, but ServiceNow is all Thirdera does, and we do it with great depth and great scale across the globe. But next week on Workflow Wednesday, Dan will be joined with Marco from Happy Signals. And one of the things we're going to spend time talking about there is how do we get that insight? Dan, you mentioned a couple different times of really how do we subtly ask for feedback? And so I'm looking forward to that conversation next week. Any last thoughts from you, Dan, before we close out this session of Workflow Wednesday?
One of the comments from the panel that really I thought did a good job summarizing what all the panelists were talking about was from your leader, Jason Willian, CEO of Thirdera. And he laid out a vision for the customer experience that Jason, the leadership team, Jeff, the CIO at Thirdera, are trying to deliver to the 600 plus now employees at Thirdera. And he said, no employee should have to enter the same information twice. And every employee should be able to get whatever they need within 2 clicks. And I thought, as a vision, you and I know Jason, you can hear those words coming from his mouth. He's so passionate about, creating the company that he would want to work for. That's a, comment he makes frequently. But I thought in terms of, topics like the future of work and, how do we combat the great resignation, hearing leaders like Jason and, listening to what they're doing to invest in better employee experiences really goes a long way toward providing a blueprint that I would hope all leaders in all industries end up following. So I'd say that was, a lot of the comments, like the ones we've talked about, the stories resonated, but the kind of leadership and the kind of value system that Jason has and that, he's creating company-wide for Thirdera, I thought was really a good way to summarize, what I thought the key points were from the whole roundtable.
Yeah, I have to say I'm biased. I'm part of Thirdera and been part of it for over a year. And it's just that Jason does have an amazing vision of where he wants to go to serve clients, the culture he wants to build within the organization, and really the value that we bring to the ServiceNow ecosystem. So it's been great to be part of it. I'm thankful to be part of that journey. And, yes, it does make a difference for how we do work inside of Thirdera. But the cool part of me as a client executive is seeing the impact that we get to bring to our clients. We have more than 400 projects concurrently running. We're talking about growing with scale. We're scaling and scaling fast, and really striving to have that consistent experience that we can be seen as that trusted advisor and educator and advocate to help them really transform the culture within their organizations. And so it's very, very cool. But Dan, again, thank you for your time. And I appreciate it. We'll sound off from this Workflow Wednesday, and we'll see you again next week. Reach out to Dan or myself if you've got questions, and we look forward to scheduling a meeting with you. Thanks.
Always my pleasure, Troy. Thanks.